The night was quiet in Jonas Hale's small workshop. Only the soft buzz of tools and the hum of old machines filled the air. Jonas worked late, as usual. He liked the silence, the smell of metal, and the feeling of fixing things with his hands. It made his simple life feel steady. Outside, a cold wind blew across the empty road. Jonas didn't notice it. He was focused on repairing a broken farm drone. Sparks flashed, then faded. Suddenly, something tapped on his door. Jonas frowned. No one visited this late. He wiped his hands on a cloth and walked to the entrance. When he opened the door, he froze. A small figure stood outside, no taller than a 7-year-old child. She wore a silver cloak that seemed to glow softly in the dark. Her skin was a pale blue, and her eyes were large and bright. Too bright to be human. She looked scared and tired. Jonas blinked. Hello?" The little alien girl held out a small android toy with shaking hands. The toy was broken in half, wires hanging out like torn threads. She spoke softly, her voice trembling. Can you fix my friend?" Jonas stared for a moment, unsure if he was dreaming. An actual alien child was standing in front of him, alone, lost, holding a broken machine like it was the most important thing in her world. He knelt down slowly. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head. "No, but he is." She lifted the android a little higher, as if to show its injuries. Jonas didn't know what else to do. He stepped aside and said, "Come inside. It's cold." She walked in carefully, looking around with wide, curious eyes. She seemed nervous, like she didn't know if she was safe here. Jonas gently took the android from her hands and set it on his workbench. The girl watched with so much worry that Jonas felt pressure he had never felt before, not even when fixing expensive village machines. He glanced at her. "What's your name?" "Leary," she whispered. "I'm Jonas," he said. "I'll take a look." He opened the android with careful hands. The inside was nothing like Earth technology. Tiny glowing circuits, floating chips, humming energy nodes. Jonas had no idea how any of it worked. But Leary watched him with hope shining in her eyes, and somehow that made him want to try. He worked slowly, testing each piece. Surprisingly, some parts reacted like normal electronics. He replaced damaged wires with Earth-made ones. He stabilized the core with small metal braces, and when he touched one glowing node, it lit brighter, almost like it recognized his hands. Leary gasped softly. "You can understand it?" Jonas shook his head. "Not really, but machines are machines. They talk if you listen." She smiled a little for the first time. After half an hour, Jonas connected the last wire. The android flickered. Its single eye lit up. It lifted its head and made a small beeping sound. Leary's eyes filled with tears. She ran forward and hugged the android tightly. "I thought I lost you," she whispered to it. Jonas felt warmth in his chest. He hadn't done anything special in his mind, but to Leary it meant everything. She looked up at Jonas. "Thank you. No one else would help me." Jonas frowned. "Where are your parents? Do they know you're here?" Leary looked away. "I ran away." "From where?" Jonas asked gently. She hesitated. "From the ship." Jonas blinked. "Ship? You mean like a spaceship?" Leary nodded slowly. Before Jonas could ask more, something strange happened. A faint rumble rolled through the sky outside. The workshop lights flickered. Jonas stepped outside and looked up. There, far above the clouds, were lights. Not airplane lights, not satellites, but a pattern like a giant circle glowing in the sky. He felt cold fear creeping into his stomach. He turned back to Leary. "Are they looking for you?" Leary hugged her android tighter. "Yes." Jonas didn't know what he had gotten himself into. He only knew one thing. This child was afraid, alone, and trusting him. A soft alarm echoed across the distant hills. Not from Earth. Not from any human machine. Jonas stepped back inside, shut the door, and locked it. "You can stay here for now. We'll figure this out." Leary nodded slowly, her eyes full of inhuman fear. But for the first time, she also looked a little safe. Outside, the lights in the sky grew brighter, searching. Jonas had no idea who this child really was, or how important she would soon become. Morning came slowly to the quiet village. The sky was pale blue, and the air felt calm. Too calm, Jonas stood at the door of his workshop, sipping a cup of weak coffee. Inside, Lyri sat on a small stool, holding her repaired android close to her chest. She looked tired, as if she hadn't slept all night. Jonas kept glancing at the sky. The strange lights from last night were gone, but something in the air felt different. Heavy, tense, waiting. Lyri, he said softly, someone has come looking for you. Isn't that right? Lyri lowered her head. Yes. Are they dangerous? She hesitated. Not to me, but maybe to others. Jonas felt a chill run through him. He didn't know what that meant, but he didn't like the sound of it at all. He opened his mouth to ask more, but before he could speak, the ground began to tremble, just slightly, like a giant machine was humming beneath the earth. Jonas froze. Lyri's eyes widened in fear. Outside, a deep sound echoed across the valley. Not thunder, not anything human. It felt like the sky itself was vibrating. Jonas stepped out of the workshop, shielding his eyes as a strange shadow passed overhead. A massive ship, silent, sleek, and glowing with bright blue patterns, moved across the sky, larger than any aircraft Jonas had ever seen. It didn't roar like a jet. It glided, smooth and controlled, like it owned the air. People ran out of their houses in confusion. Some screamed, some stared, some simply froze, unable to breathe. The ship slowed above the village and released several small spherical drones that dropped toward the ground. They hovered at street level, scanning everything with long blue beams. Jonas felt Lyri grab his sleeve from behind. They found me, she whispered. The drone's lights touched houses, cars, trees, everything. Some villagers tried to run, but the drones blocked their paths. Others tried to hide, but the blue beams passed through walls like they were fog. Jonas swallowed hard. Who are they? The royal guard, Lyri said softly. Jonas blinked. Royal? As in king and queen kind of royal? Lyri nodded once. They serve my mother. Jonas choked on his words. Your mother? Before he could make sense of that, a new sound shook the air, a heavy thud, then another, like giant footsteps landing. Jonas looked toward the village square and felt his heart stop. Tall, armored figures walked out of thin air, their bodies appearing through shimmering portals. They wore silver armor running, with glowing lines. Their helmets were smooth and mirrored. They stood nearly 8 feet tall. Each carried a long staff that hummed with energy. Villagers backed away in terror. One of the armored guards boomed in a deep voice, "We seek the lost heir." Another guard added, "The child must be returned." All humans are ordered to stand aside. Jonas felt Lyri shaking behind him. She clutched his arm tightly. "Please don't let them take me." Jonas didn't know what to say. What could he do against beings like this? But the fear in her eyes made him stand straighter. He whispered, "Stay behind me. Don't run. Just stay hidden." He stepped outside fully, trying to act normal. He hoped the drones wouldn't detect Lyri inside the workshop, but one of the guards turned its head toward him. "Human," it said, "state your identity." "Jonas Hale," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Have you seen a young alien child? Small in size, blue skin, cloaked." Jonas felt his heart beat faster. He looked directly at the guard and said, "No, I haven't." The guard stared at him long enough for sweat to form on his forehead. Then it turned away, its mirrored helmet reflecting the whole village. The search continued. Drones scanned rooftops. Guards entered homes. People cried and begged to be left alone. Jonas slipped back inside the workshop and shut the door. Lyri's eyes were full of fear. "They will find me," she whispered. "They always find me." Jonas knelt in front of her. "Why were you running? Your mother must be worried." "She is not worried," Lyri said softly. "She is angry." Jonas frowned. "Why? You're just a kid." Lyri hugged her android tighter. "Because I am the next empress. I escaped my lessons. I ran away from the palace. I wanted to see a normal world, even for a little while." Jonas stared at her, shocked. Your royalty? Leary nodded sadly. Yes, and Mother will punish anyone who hides me. A cold fear crept through Jonas's stomach. Outside, a loud horn echoed again. The guards were moving closer. The drones hovered near his workshop door. Leary closed her eyes. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring danger to your home. Jonas placed a hand on her shoulder. You didn't bring danger. You brought trust. Before Leary could respond, a sudden blast of bright light flashed outside. The sky itself split open as a massive new ship descended. Far bigger, far more powerful than the others. Jonas felt the ground shake beneath his feet. Leary's voice trembled. Mother is here. Jonas had no idea what would happen next. But whatever it was, it would change his life forever. The sky grew darker as the enormous ship hovered over the village. It was so large that it covered half the sunlight, casting a shadow that made the morning feel like night. Jonas stood at the workshop door with Leary behind him, both staring upward in silence. The ship's underside opened slowly, revealing a bright circle of light. Something lower from it, smooth, glowing, and shaped like a floating platform. It drifted toward the ground with quiet, heavy grace. All the royal guards dropped to one knee at once. Villagers watched from behind fences, cars, and windows, too scared to move. Jonas felt his throat tighten. Is that her? Leary nodded. Yes, my mother. The platform touched the ground, and the light around it faded. When the brightness settled, Jonas finally saw her. The Empress did not look like any alien Jonas had imagined. She was tall, taller than any human, and her skin shimmered like polished silver with soft blue undertones. Her hair floated around her like water, glowing faintly. Her eyes were sharp, bright, and full of power. Every step she took made the air ripple, as though even the wind bowed to her presence. Behind her walked several advisors and elite guards, but none dared walk beside her. She moved forward slowly, scanning the village as if the entire planet was under her judgment. People trembled. Some dropped to their knees without knowing why. Some simply hid. Jonas watched her walk closer, and every instinct told him to run. But his legs stayed frozen. Leary stepped behind him, using him as a shield. The Empress finally stopped in the center of the village. Her voice echoed through the air without speakers, as if her words were carried by some unseen power. My daughter is on this world. Bring her to me. A wave of energy pulsed outward. Drones scanned faster. Guards spread wider. The entire village seemed to shrink under her command. Jonas felt Leary trembling harder than before. She clutched his shirt. She is angry, very angry. Jonas took a quiet breath. We'll deal with it, one step at a time. He didn't know why he was protecting her. He didn't know what he was doing at all. But he couldn't stop now. A guard approached the Empress and bowed. Your Majesty, the child is hidden. We detect faint traces of her presence in several nearby structures, but no full signature. The Empress narrowed her glowing eyes. Then the child is being shielded. Her gaze swept across the houses, the fields, the roads, everything. When her eyes passed over Jonas's workshop, Jonas felt a shiver run through him. It was as if she could see through walls, through lies, through him. Bring me the one who repaired her android, she commanded. Jonas's heart sank. Several guards moved in his direction. Leary's breath caught. Jonas, they want you. He swallowed. It's okay. I'll talk to her. No, she whispered urgently. She punishes anyone who interferes in royal matters. She might hurt you. Jonas gave her a small, shaky smile. I'll be careful. Before she could stop him, he stepped outside and raised his hand slowly to show he meant no harm. The guards surrounded him instantly, but they didn't attack. Instead, they escorted him toward the square. The Empress watched him approach. Her presence felt powerful enough to crush mountains, yet her expression stayed cold and calm. When he finally stood before her, Jonas managed a respectful nod. I'm Jonas Hale, the one who fixed the android. The Empress studied him. Her eyes glowed brighter for a brief second, scanning him in some way he didn't understand. You touched royal technology, she said. Her voice was soft but filled with authority. A human, repairing a machine designed by my empire? Jonas hesitated. It was broken and the child needed help. A flicker of emotion crossed her face. Something sharp, something dangerous. She is not simply a child. She is my heir. Jonas kept his voice steady. She was scared. Alone. She came to me for help. The Empress stepped closer. She was so tall that Jonas had to tilt his head up to meet her eyes. "Where is she now?" she asked quietly. Jonas's heart pounded. He didn't want to lie. She would know. But he didn't want to betray Lyri either. He took a small breath. "Safe." The Empress stared into him, as if reading every thought in his mind. Jonas felt exposed, like she could see every fear, every doubt, every memory he ever had. Finally, she spoke. "You protected her?" Jonas nodded once. The guards stiffened. Some reached for their weapons, but the Empress raised her hand, and they stopped. She looked down at him with a strange expression, part suspicion, part curiosity. "You risked yourself for someone not of your species," she said. "Why?" Jonas answered simply. "Because she needed someone." The Empress was silent for a long moment. Then she slowly lowered her hand, and the energy in the air softened just a little. "Bring the heir to me," she said. "No harm will come to you." Jonas hesitated, unsure if he could trust her, but he nodded anyway. He turned toward the workshop, took a deep breath, and motioned for Lyri to come out. Slowly, fearfully, she stepped out from behind the door. The Empress's expression changed instantly. Not anger this time, but something else entirely. Something almost like love. "Lyri," she whispered. Lyri froze, unsure whether to run or approach. The whole village held its breath. No one knew what the Empress would do next. When Lyri stepped into the open, every guard around the square lowered their heads. The Empress of the Galaxy stood perfectly still, her glowing eyes fixed on her daughter. The cold wind blew across the village, but no one dared move. For a moment, Lyri didn't speak. She only looked at her mother with fear and confusion. She had always known the Empress as a distant, powerful ruler, never as someone she could approach. Jonas could feel her shaking, so he gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "It's okay," he whispered. The Empress noticed the small gesture, and her expression sharpened. She stepped forward, her long silver cloak floating behind her like smoke. "Lyri," she said softly, though her voice still carried across the entire square. "Why did you leave the royal ship? Why did you come to this planet?" Lyri swallowed. I just wanted to explore. I felt trapped in the ship. Everything was controlled. Everyone treated me like I might break." The Empress lowered her gaze. For a moment, her face lost its hard edge. "You are my only child. I protect what is precious." Lyri took a small step forward. "But I never knew what real life felt like until I came here." Her mother stayed silent. Then Lyri pointed back toward Jonas. "He helped me. He fixed my android. He kept me safe. He treated me like a normal person, not a princess." The Empress slowly turned her eyes toward Jonas again. This time, her look was different, less cold, more curious. She studied the human man, his simple clothes, his dusty hands, the grease stains from his workshop. Everything about him showed a life far smaller than hers, yet somehow not lesser. "You risked your safety," she said quietly. "My enemies could have followed her. They could have killed you." Jonas shrugged a little. "Maybe, but she needed help. I couldn't just ignore that." The Empress tilted her head slightly. "For what reason? You owe nothing to her, to my empire, to me." Jonas spoke simply. "I didn't do it for the empire. I did it because she was just a kid who needed someone." The guards exchanged confused looks. The advisors whispered to each other. None of them understood how a human could act without wanting reward, status, or power. But Lyri understood, and she stood a little straighter beside him. The Empress slowly walked closer to Jonas. The ground almost seemed to hum under her steps. Many villagers panicked and backed away, but Jonas stayed where he was. "You would protect someone, even if she came from the strongest empire in the galaxy?" the Empress asked. "Yes," Jonas replied, "because she's a person. That's all that matters." The Empress studied him again, searching for lies, but she found none. Then something unexpected happened. Her posture softened. The air around her grew warmer, the bright glow in her eyes calming. Even the royal guard seemed confused by her sudden change. "You are unusual," she said. "Humans are known to fear what is stronger than them, but you do not fear me." Jonas gave a small, nervous laugh. "Oh, I fear you. A lot, but fear doesn't decide what I do." The Empress actually paused, surprised. She looked at him with quiet interest, almost like a scientist observing something new and rare. Leary stepped forward and whispered, "Mother, he's good." The Empress finally knelt down, not to Leary, not to show weakness, but to meet her daughter eye to eye. "My child, you trusted a stranger over your own protectors." Leary nodded slowly. "Because he listened to me." This one sentence hit the Empress harder than any weapon. She shut her eyes briefly, and a small breath escaped her, almost a sigh. Then she stood tall again. "Jonas Hale," she said, her voice steady but no longer harsh. "Your actions have created a debt between you and the royal house. In my empire, such debts are honored." Jonas blinked. "I didn't do it for a reward." "And yet you will be rewarded," she said. "Not because you asked, but because you showed a value my empire rarely sees." She stepped forward until she was only a few feet away from him. "In my world, strength decides worth," she said. "Power commands respect. But today—" Her gaze moved to Leary, then back to Jonas. "You have shown me another form of strength, a strength I believe humans did not possess." The guards lowered their weapons. The atmosphere shifted, less tension, more curiosity, more respect. "You protected the heir to the galaxy," the Empress said. "Not because of fear, not for gain, but because you have a human heart." For the first time since her arrival, a faint smile touched her lips. "And that, Jonas Hale, is worth more than any crown." Jonas felt strangely overwhelmed. Leary grinned, her fear melting into pride. Around them, villagers began to breathe again. The air felt lighter. The world felt safer. But the Empress was not finished. "Prepare yourself," she said. "For tomorrow the galaxy will know your name." And with that, a human man who once fixed machines in a small workshop found himself standing at the center of a future he never expected. The next morning began with a strange silence. Birds did not sing. The wind did not move. It was as if the world was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. Jonas woke up slowly, still unsure if the events of the previous night had been real. He touched the edge of his workbench, looked at his tools, and tried to calm himself. Everything looked normal. Too normal. But then he noticed a small metal box the Empress had left behind. It sat in the middle of his workbench, smooth, dark silver, and glowing softly from the inside. He had not dared open it last night. Now his curiosity grew. Before he touched it, a soft knock came at the workshop door. Jonas opened it to find Leary standing there with 2 royal guard behind her. She smiled shyly. "My mother wants to see you," she said. She didn't want to wake the whole village this time. Jonas nodded, trying not to look nervous. He followed Leary outside. A smaller royal ship had landed near the forest, glowing blue against the morning light. It was still enormous by human standards, but nothing like the massive warship from before. It looked peaceful, almost gentle. The Empress stood at the base of the ramp. She wore lighter armor today, almost ceremonial, and her expression was calm. "Jonas Hale," she said as he approached, "you did not open the box." "I wasn't sure if I should." She nodded. "You were cautious. A wise choice. Today I will explain." Leary stepped closer to Jonas as her mother continued. "In my empire, a royal debt is never forgotten. When someone protects the heir, the empire responds with a gift equal to that value." She looked at her daughter. "And the value of my child is beyond measure." Jonas swallowed hard, suddenly worried. "I don't need anything. I just helped her. And yet you will still receive your reward." The Empress raised a hand slightly. "Open the box." Jonas hesitated for a moment, then touched the smooth lid. It responded to his skin instantly. A soft hum rose from inside, and the box opened with a quiet hiss. Inside was a small, glowing device, round, flat, and marked with symbols he didn't understand. He blinked, confused. What is it? Leary stepped forward excitedly. It's a nexus core. Jonas raised an eyebrow. That means what? The Empress spoke. It is technology from the heart of our empire. With it, your world can advance hundreds of years ahead. It can power cities, heal diseases, improve machines, expand knowledge. Jonas stared in shock. You're giving this to humanity? Because you showed humanity to my daughter, the Empress said. Our scientists will arrive in 2 weeks. They will teach your people how to use it. Jonas felt dizzy. The responsibility of this gift was enormous. The world would change. Everything humans believed about technology, science, and the universe would shift overnight. He finally spoke, voice soft. Why me? Why give it to someone so ordinary? The Empress looked directly into his eyes. Because you are not ordinary, she said. Anyone can seek power. Anyone can chase glory. But you acted with kindness when no one was watching. That makes you rare. Leary nodded quickly. You're the first human who didn't treat me like something strange. Jonas felt his chest tighten. I just did what felt right. And because of that, the Empress replied, your entire species will rise. One of the guards stepped forward with a thin, bright blue tablet. He held it out to Jonas with great respect. This, the Emperor said, is the official alliance agreement between Earth and the Royal Empire. It will protect your planet from threats, guide your leaders, and ensure peace. Jonas accepted the tablet carefully, his hands shaking. I don't know if I'm the right person for this, he whispered. You are, the Empress said simply. You proved at the moment you opened your door to a frightened child. Jonas looked down at the Nexus core again. It glowed softly, warm and alive. He felt the weight of the future resting gently in his hands. What do I do now? He asked. The Empress smiled, small but genuine. You teach your world to be better, she said, the same way you taught my daughter. Leary reached out and hugged Jonas tightly. He froze at first, then hugged her back. You'll visit us, right? She asked. Jonas laughed softly. If your mom lets me. The Empress lifted her chin slightly. You will always be welcome on my ship, she said. And one day, perhaps you will see the capital. It would be an honor. The royal guard stepped back. Leary climbed the ramp. The Empress gave Jonas one last look. Remember this day, she said. It is the day your world changed. The ramp closed. The ship lifted off, rising into sky like a rising star. Jonas stood alone, holding the Nexus core and the Alliance tablet. For years he had fixed machines in a quiet workshop, and today he held the future humanity in his hands. A gift that truly changed everything.